Hello, my name is Henri ADAMCZEWSKI and welcome to my channel, and I'm so delighted to be here. And today we're going to talk about a little bit this and that. What is this and that? How to use this and that in any sentences or in any utterances. In English, this and that are demonstrative pronouns, or we can also call it deictics, and their use in sentences or in utterances is important. We're going to analyze their uses and how to overlap or go beyond our traditional comprehension of this and that. Of course, as I elaborated on this what table, we are a traditional approach at comprehending this and that. That traditional approach, we call it distancing approach or proximity approach. In the distancing approach or proximity approach, we refer this to anything, to objects that are near us or objects that are near the speaker. And we refer that to things or objects that are far from us or from the speaker who is speaking, of course. So, this is why I put in a schematic or in a scheme here as such. We have the bread, for example. Okay, this is not a bread representation correctly. It's simply an icon. Okay, here's the bread. Okay, I'm going to read what is bread, and this is the speaker. Okay, so the speaker and the bread. The speaker observing the bread will use, of course, the demonstrative pronoun or the dative pronoun this, because the bread is not far from him or is not far from her. So you would say, this is my bread. For example, this is my bread. Or this is the bread of Julia. Or this is the bread of Catherine. Good. That sounds good. And this is the traditional approach most of the time we use. And this is the way we understand the using of this. It is the same with that. That here, things far from us. Okay, here is the speaker, and here is the icon representing the bread. And you can pay attention on that, the distancing compared to the above distancing. It's longer than that one. So we simply use that because the speaker sees or observes that the bread here is far from him or for her. So it's natural that he uses that. That is my bread. That is the bread of Catherine. That is the bread of Catherine. Okay. But why do we only proceed or base our assumption of comprehension, this, that, upon distancing approach only? We have another type of approach we call metaoperational approach. Metaoperational approach, we also call it metaoperational grammar, has been elaborated earlier by a French linguist called Henri ADAMCZEWSKI. And according to ADAMCZEWSKI, we need to unleash two binary systems we call phase 1, phase 2, rhemetic, phonetic, quelquefois, and a four. If you really pay attention, I put on the one side all those groups representing the phase 1, rhemetic, quelquefois, and the other side, phase 2, rhemetic, phonetic, and a four. Okay, so according to Henri ADAMCZEWSKI, or according to Metaoperational Grammar or Metaoperational approach, okay, phase 1 is considered as the setting of a first information. Okay, the first one sets a first information because when we are speaking, we are constantly on discussing things. We are regular. We are in a regular conversation, and so we can have two speakers that are discussing on things, for example, and the first speaker, the speaker A, maybe, would say, we want to give an information to a speaker B. So, by using that, you need to take into account some degree of phase 1 or some particular pronouns. In such a context, when you want to set a first information, he should take into account the pronoun or the dative pronoun this, okay, or this, simply to set a first information. And while wanting to recall the first information earlier set or earlier posited before, he should take into account the demonstrative pronoun or the dative pronoun that. So that is simply to recall the first information. Okay, that recall the first information. This set a first information. So we can look at a simple example. This is my bread. Okay, I simply use the same sentence or the same icon here. This is my bread. This here, in such case, is used because it simply comes to set a first information. And that bread is red. Of course, we are talking about the bread earlier elaborated or earlier asserted, and simply we want to talk about the color the color of the bread. So we're not going to use this bread is red, but simply use that in such context. I want to tell you that it's simply in an utterance. Okay, there is some context where that particular comprehension is not valid, is invalid. So you need to be cautious on their uses in such a Metaoperational approach. Okay, you need to be on a particular utterance, on a particular context. Here, this is a particular context, and the way we are between two speakers. The first one will say, "This is my bread," and the second one, for example, or the same first one, will say, "That bread is red," or the second one will say, "That bread is red," because they know each of us which kind of bread they are talking. It's important. Okay, so I like that you comprehend that tiny information, and I hope that you can use it, genuinely and cautiously, this and that in your daily activities, in your daily conversation. And thank you very much for listening to me. Goodbye.